Good afternoon. I'm Jane Goodwin, Vice Chair of the Sarasota County School Board, and I want to welcome all of you to be with us today for a very, very important part of introducing our new officers to the community of the Sarasota County Schools. Would you all please stand and salute the flag with me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Before we have the oath of office, I'd like to introduce our Director of Safety and Security, Michael Andreas. Michael.
Welcome, everyone. I've never been accused of being soft-spoken, so I'll just speak primarily without the mic, but I would like to welcome everybody here. It is said that communities get the law enforcement agencies they deserve, and what that comment means is that there are standards and expectations that go along with law enforcement agencies. So if you want a really great, outstanding law enforcement agency, you have to have high expectations and the high standards, right? The high criteria, and we've done that. So the men and women you see before you today represent a whole lot of work, and believe me, it has been a whole lot of work to get us to where we are today. Someone said there are 1,000,001 details to look at when you start a law enforcement agency, and I corrected them and said it's actually 1,000,000,001 when you start a law enforcement agency, particularly at a school district. So we are here. We've got wonderful people in place. We have the process, the system, the right leadership in place, the right support. And so I wanted to say that this kind of effort doesn't happen in a silo. It absolutely is a partnership, and that partnership has been both internally and externally. And I'd like to say from the very early on when we started this, we had a whole lot of help and support from our law enforcement partners in Sarasota County that have helped us in a number of ways, and I'm extremely grateful for that. Chief Tom Mattmuller from Venice PD, Bernadette DePito, Chief DePino from Sarasota PD, the Sheriff Tom Knight from Sarasota County Sheriff's Office, Northport PD, Chris Morales has been a big help. Chief Watson, I mean, the list goes on and on. To a person, every single law enforcement agency in Sarasota County has supported this effort. And it has been truly a collaborative and positive piece to get us to where we are. And it has been, and when I say that here, we had some ups and downs, and some people had a little bit of angst, and we moved past that to where we are, what's right for Sarasota County. So I'm internally grateful for their support and for the help, and I'd like to thank all our law enforcement officers and partners, both internally and externally, for their support where we are today. So as you know, you probably know, we have unanimous support throughout the county for all of this, for our efforts here, and that is wonderful news. And I can tell you, this effort was a bit of a change for Sarasota County, but when I was hired here, we looked at the schools and where they needed to be in the safety, security, emergency management field, and it was, Mike, we realize where we are and what we need to do, and how do we get there, help us get there. And so it was a little bit of a shift here and there. And so I'd like to say, when Superintendent Bowden was first appointed, he was down in my office, and I had a whiteboard in my office, and I had a whole bunch of things listed on my whiteboard. And I don't know if you remember this day. He was in the office. I walked into the office. He was there before me for a meeting, and he was looking at all the items we had to address. And he said, "Is this all the work we have to do?" And he was taking photos of it, and he said, "I want to be the person who fixes all the safety issues for Sarasota County." So that was the beginning of our relationship, because I knew his heart and his mind were in the right place for safety and security for the kids and the staff and the visitors in Sarasota County. And from that point, for a first-year superintendent to take on the magnitude of those issues that he did, I'm grateful for that. And I think when you look at the schools and you see what we've done and what we are continuing to do, you'll be impressed. Today does not mark the end of a journey or a milestone for us. It marks a new beginning. We have to keep going. There is a whole lot to do in a short period of time to do it, but this is a process we will continue to grow and evolve and insert ourselves into a system of safety security for Sarasota County. It is truly a collaborative effort, one that I am proud of, one that I'm happy to have some input into that in a major way. I'm honored to be Sarasota County's Executive Director of Public Safety for the schools. It is an important mission, and when you look at what we're doing and the things we're trying to do, it is absolutely the right step for Sarasota County in today's asymmetric threat world. So with that, I'd like to say welcome, families, friends, congratulations to the officers. I'd like to say thank you, Judge, for being here. Board members, thank you for being here. Our law enforcement partners, thank you very much for being here. Friends and families, thank you very much for being here. Superintendent Bowden, thank you for taking this on. And Paul, thank you for being here. So with that, I will introduce our new Chief of Police, Paul Grohowski.
Thank you. Today's not about me, it's about them, so why don't you guys and ladies come on up front, please. Well, I want to take a moment to thank everyone for taking time out of their schedules to this inaugural swearing-in ceremony of the Sarasota County Schools Police Department, and to meet our new officers, sergeants, and their families. I'll be introducing our officers as well as members of their families and welcoming them into our family. I'd like to also acknowledge our partners from law enforcement because, as the executive director says, it's not a silo. We have to work collaboratively, and that's the only way to do this. And I'm here to tell you I've got some great support from our friends in law enforcement. I'd also like to acknowledge the dignitaries that are here today. Senior Judge Haworth, who will be administering our oath of office, Dr. Bowden, Executive Director Andreas, you just met, members of the school board, elected officials, and members of the Sarasota County community. It's my belief that law enforcement is not a profession that's just a job. It's a calling. It's a sense of duty that drives each and every one of us with a passion to protect the most vulnerable of our society. It's the purest and noblest cause to dedicate one's life to the service of others. And it is our commitment to Sarasota County that we will protect our most precious commodity, our children. And we will do this with integrity, exceptional customer service, and excellence. It's the professional police officer who serves as society's guardians. They are the warriors that run towards danger to protect the freedoms that we all enjoy as a society. And this group of law enforcement professionals has certainly proven themselves to be the best of the best. They are the who's who of American law enforcement. They're from departments that hail as far north as the Windy City of Chicago, from departments as large as the NYPD, the Massachusetts and Connecticut State Police. They're also comprised of every single municipal and county agency in this county. Collectively, they have over 544 years of law enforcement experience. They average 23 years of law enforcement experience. This is a seasoned group of officers that we're bringing to bear. They're some of the brightest, most educated, and highly trained law enforcement professionals I've ever had the privilege of working with. So without further ado, I want to introduce everyone by themselves. First person, Steve Kim. So, please. Sergeant Steve Kim has been in law enforcement for over 10 years, having served the majority of his career with the city of Port St. Lucie, and most recently with the Oviedo Police Department in the Orlando area. Steve is also a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. During his career in law enforcement, Sergeant Kim served as a uniformed crime scene investigator, an active member of the Police Honor Guard, was assigned to an inaugural burglary task force, the Directed Action Response Team, served as a detective in the Criminal Investigations Division, and a detective in the Special Investigation Unit that handles narcotics. Steve also served as the team leader for the Port St. Lucie SWAT team. Over the years, Steve has been formally recognized for numerous unit and personal citations. However, Steve's greatest professional achievement has been obtaining a higher education while balancing his family and career. While working as a police officer, Steve completed his bachelor's degree in public safety administration, his master's degree in criminal justice from, I believe, the same school my daughter's going to this year, BU. And after not having enough of the master's, he retired from law enforcement and went to school to get his law degree. He's got his Juris Doctorate from Florida A&M. Joining Steve today is his wife of 15 years, Jen. Welcome, Jen. And two of his children, Addison and Kira, who will be pinning his badge on for him. The next of our honorees is Sergeant Perna. Water timeout. Sergeant Perna has proudly served for 15 years at the Sarasota Police Department. Sergeant Perna was a member of the multi-agency gang task force here in Sarasota County for 12 years. He's a highly decorated officer, earning 8 letters of commendation and 5 life-saving medals. Sergeant Perna has served the last 5 years as a school resource officer at Brookside Middle School. Joining Todd today is his wife, Carmen, who will be pinning his badge, and joined by his 3 proud children, Sierra, Riley, and Savannah. Thank you, Todd. The first of our officers, Officer Joe Hayes. Joe's no stranger to Sarasota County law enforcement, having recently retired from the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office in 2016 at the rank of lieutenant. Officer Hayes has spent 31 years in law enforcement, 21 of which were a supervisor in some capacity or another. He supervised various patrol and specialized units to include SWAT, narcotics, and others. He served 4 years prior to coming to Sarasota with the Alachua County Sheriff's Office and 27 years of his career here. Officer Hayes served as a patrol deputy, a SWAT team member, a detective, a narcotics detective, a community police officer, and supervisor of all these units to include Homeland Security. Not to be outdone, Joe also served as SRO at Booker High School from 93 to 94, and he's a former member of FASRO and NASRO. Joe was raised in Miami, Florida, attended Florida Public Schools. He earned his bachelor's degree from the University of Florida in Criminal Justice. He's joined today by his children, Alexandria, son, Jared. Both Venice High School students are graduates, I might add. And their children, your children, followed in father's footsteps with higher education. They both completed law degrees from UCF and Santa Fe Community College, respectively. And his son, Jared, is a state law enforcement officer with the Department of FWC. Keeping the family on track is Joe's wife, Janet, both of whom have been happily married for 30 years. Never an unhappy day, correct? Never in my house either. And Janet will be doing the honors for Joe later on. Thank you, Joe. The next of our honorees is Officer Michael Halpin. Mike was born in the Bronx, or as we like to say, the Bronx, and he graduated from Manhattan College with a Bachelor of Arts degree in communications, and that's definitely going to be a useful degree in this job. Officer Halpin served the citizens of the city of New York as an NYPD officer from 1996 to 2016. Mike served for 8 years in Midtown Manhattan in the 10th Precinct, then transferred to the Patrol Bureau in Manhattan South, where he's responsible for all of the division's overtime procurement of human resources and balanced all overtime expenditures. Officer Halpin served in the highly elite counterterrorism unit in Manhattan South, where he had the task of planning, staffing, and deploying all resources necessary for the safety of all dignitaries, various details, parades, demonstrations within his borough, to include presidential visits and the papal visit 2 years ago. I think Mike's got a skill set we might use protecting our kids. The Halpin family relocated to the Venice area in June of 2017. Mike's passion to protect and his duty to public service continues as he joins us today as a police officer. Mike is joined by his wife of 20 years, Kim, who will be pinning Mike's badge today. Welcome. Officer Marino Rotundo. He hails from East Rutherford, New Jersey. And we kind of have something in common because he comes from where my New York Giants come from, East Rutherford, so thank you. Welcome. Officer Rotundo served with distinction for 18 and a half years, both in the Patrol Division, and was a supervisor of the Traffic Safety Bureau for 14 years. He was responsible for all radio communications, police vehicle upfitting. Could have used you a couple of weeks ago. And as the 911 coordinator. Officer Rotundo was a highly decorated officer earning 2 life-saving awards and was a liaison officer for his agency responsible for the security of the 2014 Super Bowl. In addition to his years of police service, Officer Rotundo served his community for 12 years as a volunteer firefighter for the city of Rutherford. Prior to joining us here at the Sarasota County Schools Police Department, Officer Rotundo served the Northport Police Department as a community service aide. Joining Marino today is his wife of 27 years, Gina, and watching on TV later on is his daughter, Alyssa, who couldn't be here today. She's a 7th grade math teacher here in the school district at Heron Middle Creek and is training for the arrival of our new students. The legacy of service continues in the Rotundo family. Thank you. Officer Robert Giarraputo is our next honoree. Robert was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. He earned his associate's degree in criminal justice while beginning his law enforcement career with the city of Long Beach as a beach patrol officer. That's a tough gig. Some of the Sarasota folks know what I'm talking about. Robert's career took a turn when he received a letter in August of '93 accepting him into the NYPD's Police Academy. Robert Giarraputo served with the NYPD with distinction for 20 years. He was assigned to Brooklyn's 90th precinct, which is the Williamsburg section of New York, during a time that was the pre-gentrified version of Williamsburg that's enjoyed today. That neighborhood was restored to a highly desirable place to live because of the hard work of officers like Robert. Officer Giarraputo was selected to be a member of the Conditions Unit, which was tasked with aggressively tackling the quality of life issues that plague this community. His efforts were lasting in the restoration of the Williamsburg neighborhood that stands today, and his efforts were recognized from the Honors Legion and the American Legions. I got to share one small personal story and maybe embarrass Robert a little bit, but you can imagine as we're screening candidates, we want people with great interpersonal skills, and I don't know exactly how it was phased or phrased to him, but we asked Robert about his interpersonal skills, and for old cops in the room, there was a thing called verbal judo. Well, Robert's a self-proclaimed black belt in verbal judo, so we knew he was part of us then at that point. He's joined today here by his girlfriend Amanda, her daughter Christina, and his father Lenny and his girlfriend Kathy. After retiring from the NYPD in 2016, Robert moved to Sarasota region to be close to his father Lenny. Mr. Giarraputo, I don't know where you are in the room. I met you earlier. I'm sure you're proud of your son, and we are too. So thank you for having him. Thank you. Officer John McDaniel. John's no stranger to public service. Since the age of 16, John served as a police cadet in his hometown in Indiana and joined the rank and file as a police officer in 1994. Officer McDaniel initially served with the New Chicago Police Department and the LaPorte Police Department before joining the Lake Station Police Department in 97, where he served until his retirement in 2016 of August. John served in numerous roles. He served as a police officer, a patrol corporal, a detective sergeant, a patrol sergeant, and in those capacities, he supervised their drug unit and SWAT team. John was appointed to the rank of assistant chief, a position he held for the last 8 years before he retired and moved to Sarasota. In addition to John's public service as a law enforcement officer, John also served his community as a volunteer fireman and as deputy coroner for 4 years and was a certified metallurgical death investigator. If this wasn't enough for public service, John also served as a councilman for 12 years and interim mayor. We called John our underachiever at a bunch. We asked John during the interview if he had any prior SRO experience, and sadly enough, he has none. But, not to be outdone, we learned that while he was working as a police officer, John would regularly serve as a substitute teacher on his days off. I don't know how he had days off, but he did. John's joined today by his fiancée, Erica, who will pin his badge, and they're planning on getting married on August 18th, right in the middle of our school year, so I have to deny that. Thank you. We'll have to postpone that to the winter. John is joined by his daughters Madison and Emily and his father Ron Hamilton, who flew all the way in today to be with his son. Also joining John is his uncle Ken Snyder and soon-to-be-in-laws Mark and Leslie. Welcome to our family. Our next officer is Officer Courtney Zach. Officer Zach's another highly talented officer hailing from the St. Petersburg Police Department, where she served with distinction for 12 years. Officer Zach served as a field training officer, a community service officer, a hostage negotiator, and an undercover vice and narcotics detective. While at the St. Pete Police Department, say that 3 times fast, Officer Zach was recognized as Officer of the Quarter and was runner-up for Officer of the Year. Having a passion for training, Courtney left the St. Pete Department, and for the past 2 years, she served as the lead instructor for the police academy, teaching cops how to be cops. I can honestly say that her boss literally called me last night. I don't know where he is. I'm hoping he's here today. Thank you. You don't want to put that hand up too high. He literally cursed me for taking his best instructor. So too soon for so sad, so bad. Courtney has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from the State University of New York in Buffalo. Joining Courtney today are her parents, Richard and Suzanne, who will be both taking part in bestowing the honors of pinning Officer Zach's badge. Welcome, Mom and Dad. Officer James O'Leary is our next honoree. Officer O'Leary comes to us with nearly 30 years of law enforcement experience from the city of Norwalk, Connecticut. James rose to the rank of detective in only 6 short years in Norwalk. Detective O'Leary served the Norwalk community with distinction, earning the Officer of the Quarter award, an unprecedented 6 times. Hey, you try doing this. This isn't easy. He also earned his department's Distinguished Service Award for work involving a homicide investigation in 2011. James also served as a SWAT team member for 20 years. That's impressive, James. Detective O'Leary's commitment to our children is evident through his work as a liaison officer between the Fairfield County Schools, the courts, and the Department of Children and Families in Connecticut. His commitment to our children continued when James moved to his area, where he served as an ESE teacher at Port Charlotte High School in the behavioral unit for the past 3 years. James has a bachelor's degree from the University of Connecticut, and he's joined by his wife, Tatiana, and his daughter, Alicia, and his son, Brian. Welcome to all. Officer Sal Gianino. Sal's a 20-year veteran officer from the NYPD. He served in numerous capacities, most notably was another member of the highly elite counterterrorism unit of the NYPD. He started his career with the New York City Department of Corrections in '99 and worked in a maximum security facility as part of their emergency services unit for 6.5 years. That's not a fun job. Officer Gianino transferred into the NYPD in 2005, where he served as a patrol and housing officer, as well as a community affairs officer and a crime prevention officer. He reached a pinnacle when he became selected for the counterterrorism unit, and he did that job for the last few years before he retired. Sal is joined by his wife of 16 years, Erica, his son Joseph, who attends Sarasota Middle School, and daughter Sienna, who attends Riverview High. So we got a little bit of a rival in the school system there. He's also joined by other family members today, and welcome to all of you. Officer John Dominguez. John's another seasoned officer with 13 years of law enforcement experience and a commitment to public service. John is an Army veteran, serving 2 successful overseas deployments. Thank you, John, and actually thank you all that have served in the military for your service. I appreciate that. Steve. John began his law enforcement career with the Hobbs Police Department in New Mexico. Officer Dominguez served as a SWAT commander and SWAT team leader for his agency. He moved to Florida in 2013 and continued his career with the Northport Police Department. Officer Dominguez's experience include criminal investigations, narcotics, gangs, and SWAT. John also served prior to being a law enforcement officer as a case manager for juvenile offenders, where he provided social skills and training and guidance through the Juvenile Community Corrections Program. Officer Dominguez has a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of the Southwest and is currently working to complete his master's. John is joined today by his wife of 14 years, Stephanie, and his children, Ryan, Alina, and Dominic. Welcome to all of you. Officer James Wheatley. Officer Wheatley's like a guy we like to call a cop's cop. James, as our new team officers have already nicknamed him Wheats, comes to us from the Garden State of New Jersey. Officer Wheatley served the Wharton Police Department for 22 years. He was a DARE officer working with the children in the public school system for 18 of those years. James also served as a sergeant in patrol for 12 years. He holds 2 bachelor's degrees from Trenton State College, one in criminal justice and the other in sociology. James is joined today by his wife Jessica, children Gia and Jim. Thank you. The last 2 of our officers are individuals, but also a couple, literally. A married couple who dedicated their lives to each other and dedicated their lives to public service. We know them affectionately as the McCarricks. Please, we'll stand forward. Officer James McCarrick, and I'm doing you kind of mixed, so it's going to go back and forth. He served the Wheeling Police Department in Illinois for 27 years. Officer Mary McCarrick served the Chicago Police Department also for 27 years. If you do the math, they have 54 years of collective law enforcement experience between them. Officer Mary McCarrick began her career with the Village of Buffalo Grove Police Department before transferring to the Chicago Police Department. Mary served as a field training officer, as a detective, as a member of a pickpocket task force, and as a tactical team member. Mary then transferred to the Dignitary Protection Unit, where she finished her career. Mary's also a licensed pilot, if that wasn't enough, which Dr. Bowden, that's going to be our pilot for the air unit I put in the requisition for next year. Just to get her out. It's a big county. It's a convenience. Officer James McCarrick served 27 years with the Wheeling Police Department, a suburb of Chicago. He served as a detective, a youth officer, evidence technician, and field training officer. He's also a highly decorated officer and has his bachelor's degree in criminal justice from the Illinois State University. When the McCarricks finally decided to retire and trade in their snow shovels for beach shovels, they, like many of us northerners, moved to Sarasota area for their piece of the sunshine. They were attracted to Sarasota for the A-rated schools, and their son Jack attends Pineview Elementary here in Sarasota. The McCarrick's son, Jack, will pin the badges on both mom and dad, or have some part in the two of that. Now, it didn't take long for Mary and James to immerse themselves into the Sarasota community. After 54 years, they're still at it. For the past 4 years, they both served the children of Sarasota County as substitute school teachers. I don't think what I've learned about the McCarricks led me to believe that either are close to being done service in the community. In fact, their individual passion to protect our children radiated through both of their interviews. And in fact, Mary was so passionate about keeping our children safe that upon conclusion of her interview, she literally left me speechless. And for those of you who have not come to know me, that's very rare. I'm long-winded. What? And do you remember what I said at the end? You got me on a low. That's how good she was. It's that passion that Mary exemplified in her interview that I stand proudly before you to tell you that every single one of these men and women shared. The passion to keep our kids safe exuded from every single one of them. Despite all of their seasons, despite all the experiences, despite their collective knowledge, they've got a spring in their step and they want to keep our kids safe. And I can honestly say to the citizens of Sarasota County, you can place your trust in this group of outstanding officers. I'm proud to stand amongst them. Without further ado, Your Honor.
Thank you, Chief. I wasn't asked to make any remarks, but I'm going to. First off, Chief, I think the Tampa Bay Bucks could use you as a recruiter. I don't know how you got so many incredibly qualified people in the time that you did. And I can tell you, as someone who is a product of Sarasota County Schools, Southside Elementary, Brookside, we called it junior high then, and Sarasota High, and I got 4 grandkids in Sarasota schools now. I have a high level of confidence that these quality people that you have, their professionalism and experience is going to go a great distance to make us all, as parents and grandparents, comfortable with what's going on in the national scene and the state scene with dangers to our children. I don't think anybody could have done it better. So it is my distinct pleasure to administer your oath. And if you each would, raise your right hands and repeat after me. I, and here state your name.
I,
A citizen of the state of Florida.
a citizen of the state of Florida
And of the United States of America.
and of the United States of America,
And being employed by the Sarasota County School Board.
and being employed by the Sarasota County School Board,
And a recipient of public funds.
and a recipient of public funds,
As such employee,
as such employee,
do solemnly swear that I will,
do solemnly swear that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
uphold, protect, and defend
uphold, protect, and defend
the constitutions of the state of Florida
the constitutions of the state of Florida
and the United States of America.
and the United States of America.
I further swear that I will,
I further swear that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
enforce the laws, policies, and procedures
enforce the laws, policies, and procedures
as enacted by the Sarasota County School Board,
as enacted by the Sarasota County School Board,
Sarasota County,
Sarasota County,
the state of Florida,
the state of Florida,
and the United States of America.
and the United States of America.
On my honor,
On my honor,
I will never betray my badge,
I will never betray my badge,
my commitment to integrity, service, or excellence,
my commitment to integrity, service, or excellence,
my character,
my character,
or the trust of each school community.
or the trust of each school community,
And I will at all times
and I will at all times
maintain and conduct myself
maintain and conduct myself
in a manner befitting a police officer
in a manner befitting a police officer
of the Sarasota County School Board,
of the Sarasota County School Board,
upon which I am now to enter.
upon which I am now to enter.
Congratulations to all of you.
If I could, we're going to one at a time pin everyone. I was going to pin everybody at once, but I want to give everybody their chance. So if we could just start with the Kim family. On the left of the table, just so everyone knows, if you're pinning, there's badges with their names right next to them. So start top left and move around. And girls, you can grab his. Step forward. Do you see the center circle? Sergeant Purvis family? On deck, the Hayes family. Jump, sit, stand. Officer Hayes. Halpin family? Halpin family? Next, you're Hayes. You're up first. The Halpins. Officer Rotundo. Giarraputo. Putting a badge on a shirt is not an easy thing, so don't feel that there's any stress to get it done right away. Officer McDaniel. Officer Zach. Officer O'Leary.
My family had to, I got to go solo. They had to go to open house at my daughter's school.
May I?
I'll stand with you. I thank you for that.
Thank you for that. Pleasure. Congratulations. Who am I at? Sal, the Gianinos. Officer Dominguez. It's not a real painting unless you draw blood, so that's the goal. Officer Wheatley. I love this little guy. Officer Mary McCarrick. And James, if you want to be part of it too, please. One more. James McCarrick. I have one last oath I ask all the officers that I've had the pleasure of hiring and swearing in. It's the International Association of Chief of Police Oath of Honor. So if everyone could raise their right hand and repeat after me. On my honor.
On my honor.
I will never betray my badge.
I will never betray my badge.
My integrity.
My integrity.
My character.
My character.
Or the public's trust.
Or the public's trust.
I will always have the courage to hold.
I will always have the courage to hold
Myself and others accountable.
Myself and others accountable.
For our actions.
For our actions.
I will always uphold.
I will always uphold
The Constitution.
the Constitution.
My community.
My community.
And the agency I serve.
And the agency I serve.
Ladies and gentlemen, the men and women of the Sarasota County Police Department. I want to introduce our superintendent, Dr. Bowden, who we could not have done without. The vision that this man had to do this in this capacity, it's unprecedented. I'm proud to have him as my boss.
First, I want to recognize the vision of our board. We have 4 of our 5 school board members here today. We received our marching orders, and I can tell you we are executing those orders with excellence. And so there are some people in the audience I want to recognize. You've heard today from our Executive Director of Safety and Security. He certainly was the first pair of boots on the ground, Mike Andreas. And then I said at the time that when we hired our chief of police that the department would be created in his image. And so that was a very, very important hire for us. And I can tell you the first time that I met Paul Grohowski, my confidence went up about 20 notches. If the men and women of this department are created in the image of Paul Grohowski, then I have the utmost confidence that we're going to serve the students and this community with distinction. So thank you for your work, Paul. I believe prior to the swearing in, a comment was made about how did you attract this caliber of men and women in such a short time period. And Roy, Tula, I know we have some folks from our HR department that are here that in addition to going out and trying to find teachers to start the school year, we said, oh, by the way, we're going to stand up a police department. We're going to do it in 3 months. And so I want to recognize our HR department who is represented here. And we have a number of people in our communications department led by Tracy Beaker, our Director of Communications, who really put us out there in the forefront. I hope it is that campaign that brought you to us. And so I certainly want to recognize our Director of Communications and other members of our communications department. Prior to becoming the superintendent of schools, I spent 9.5 years as the director of Suncoast Technical College, which includes the Criminal Justice Academy. And I have to tell you that every year you got to preside over graduations, but the Criminal Justice Academy graduation just felt different than any other graduation ceremony we had as folks graduated the academy. And I think it is reflective of the law enforcement community. And so if you would indulge me for a second, if you have a loved one that is standing here with me, if you are the friend, family member of one of our officers, if you could please stand. One of the things that has been made abundantly clear to me is that an individual does not choose a career in law enforcement. It is their family that chooses a career in law enforcement. And so I want to thank you for the love and support that you've provided these men and women over their 23 years of service that as they come to us. But I want to thank you for letting them serve our students the way we do. And so I just want to recognize your friends and family for selecting and supporting our law enforcement officers. Great. Thank you. To our officers, you join a community 5,000 strong, the employees of the school district of Sarasota County. I have to tell you, we have extremely high standards in this district. It's the standards our community has for us. But I can tell you the expectations for you are going to be different. Your every move is going to be watched. I have great confidence in the way you are going to represent your uniform, how you're going to represent your department. But we have high expectations for our department. But the expectations we have for you are different. God forbid that incident ever happens on one of those campuses. I'll run away. I'll tell you right now. The things that we are conditioned to run away from, you are conditioned to run towards. And so we are so excited to have you serving on our campuses. We are excited to have you join the 5,000 employees of the school district of Sarasota County. I know your colleagues at the back of the room are excited to welcome you into the law enforcement community here in Sarasota. And as your superintendent, I could not be any more proud of the department that we've assembled. And so I look forward to the first day of school. I look forward to seeing you interact with our students and to our community. There's been a lot of discussion about how do we meet the mandate that is imposed on us. Not just the mandate of the law, but the mandate of the community. It's a very simple commitment. When you send a kid to school, you want them to come home at the end of the day. Pretty simple. That's our mission. And we want to make sure that when we send them home at the end of the day, we send them just a little bit better than we found them that morning. If we're able to do that each and every day, year after year, then I am confident that we'll meet the expectations that this community has set for us. And so thank you for agreeing to serve in this capacity. I believe that concludes our program for today. Let's get to work.
If everyone wants to take photos, feel free. We can use the podium and